Zimbabwe. We really did save the best till last.
I felt it here. I felt seen. Oh God, here we go again. Hopefully I can get through this video. Right. So anyway. Hello race drivers, welcome back to the channel. Now in this video I'm going to give you my honest review of the Grand Tour. Now first of all, confession time. I've never really been a fan of Top Gear. I've never really watched any of the Grand Tour episodes at all. It's just not my thing. But for this episode I had to make an exception, and yes, you can probably guess why. Our beautiful Zimbabwe took center stage, and after this video I'm probably going to watch it again. Maybe sometime in the future I will watch it again. So anyway, my review, my brutally honest review. I use the word brutally because of something that I will point out later on in the video, and also I have something to say to my fellow Zimbabweans. But for now, here's my review. As I was saying, I got a bit emotional as I was watching this episode of the Grand Tour. I got emotional for several reasons. The first reason was the very fact that they chose Zimbabwe for their very last episode. I see that as a great tribute to Zimbabwe. The second reason is that our country, Zimbabwe, is always gotten bad publicity. It's always been portrayed in a negative light through and through. I mean, for so many years, that has been the case. And that is sad. It saddens me. So this time, Zimbabwe was portrayed in a positive light. There was a lot of positives. It was a heartwarming show. Let me put it like that. So watching the Grand Tour, that episode reminded me just how breathtaking Zimbabwe is. The forest, the ever-changing landscape, as Jeremy called it, that sunrise, that sunset, the crackling campfire, all that reminded me just how beautiful Zimbabwe is. Reminded me of the things we take for granted, the small pleasures, and the crew captured it very well indeed. And it was quite touching when Jeremy made that comment about Zimbabwe. I mean, yeah, I felt that. I was in tears just hearing him say that. I had to rewind it again. I think I did that twice. And this is what he said.
I know what happened. God had done all the other countries in the world, and he'd got to the end of the alphabet. He got to Z, got to Zimbabwe, and he thought, right, this is going to be my best work. This is going to be my greatest hits.
Now, another confession. I've never really been a huge fan of Jeremy Clarkson. I have to be honest about that. He's not one of my favorite people, let me say, but with that statement, he won me over. He won me over because he wasn't pretending. Oh God, here I go again. This is terrible. This is awful. God, I just want to finish this video. Anyway, I know people are good at acting. I know people are good at pretending. But when Jeremy said that, I felt he was sincere. When he said those very words, I thought he was sincere. And it's true. Zimbabwe is a beautiful country. It's breathtaking. It's breathtaking. So yeah, that's how I know he meant it. He meant it. So that part was another part that made me very, very emotional. And I'm trying not to be emotional right now because it's very difficult not to be, especially if you come from Zimbabwe like I do. And the very fact that we take that place, that country for granted most of the time. That is the thing that makes me so emotional when I talk about this. Anyway, let's move on with the review. Another thing that I really, really loved about the show, the Grand Tour, that is the final episode, was the fact that, or the way that they seamlessly and casually weaved in the locals into the show. I mean, the interactions were seamless. They were natural. For example, the cheering kids, the school child who waved as they were passing, and those workers who I think need to be fired. So I really enjoyed that seamless interaction. You remember that lady who was just standing by the roadside, you know, doing her afro thing. I think she was pregnant. That's why I said I need to watch it again. And that naughty guy who was in the boot. So I really loved that. I loved the fact that they managed to capture the spirit of the Zimbabwean people without actually disrupting the show. Another good thing as well that I found about the show was that There were a few lessons in there as well.
The Lancia, the ideal car for Africa. It's the engine. Yeah. Stag.
Now, I have to confess, I don't have the foggiest about cars. I don't know a thing. I just drive the cars, I put fuel, I take them to the garage for MOT, I take them for servicing, that sort of thing. That's all I know. But if one was listening closely, then one would have picked a thing or two about cars. Now, some of the roads were quite treacherous, I have to say. And I think it was Richard who said, you know, he was talking about the potholes. He said the potholes were almost the same as the ones in England. I thought that was subtle. And also when Jeremy said, he said something like, thankfully, here we are in control of our destiny, something like that. Anyway, he was referring to the roads. I also thought that was nice. That was nicely put, because the way I took that expression when he said, but here we are in control of our destiny, I took it to mean that there's a beautiful, untamed freedom to life here, and that's something to be cherished, even if it comes with a few potholes, even if it comes with a few bumps along the road. That's how I took that. So to me, that was a compliment, because here's how I see things. When it comes to Africa, or when it comes to Zimbabwe, there are certain places, or there are certain things that I feel should be kept the way they are, or certain things that I feel shouldn't be tampered with a lot. Of course, potholes should definitely be repaired. Something should be done about that. Otherwise, accidents. No doubt about that. But I'm just expanding on Jeremy's sentiments to say that there are certain things that I feel shouldn't be tampered with. I know these days we're into these gadgets, the modern things. We want to modernize everything. But when it comes to Mother Nature, when it comes to certain things, I think some things should not be tampered with too much. Of course, I also enjoyed the good old English banter, good old English humor. I mean, what's not to like? And to think that they were offered that little car. Did you see that red car with a chigubu tanki? I mean, I don't know how to translate that in English, but basically I'm talking about one of those, let me say, useless cars. And the dog as well. That was a bit funny. So anyway, yeah, I really enjoyed the Grand Tour. I have to be honest, I really did. And another moment as well that made me cry. I mean, this one, it always brings tears to my eye, tears of joy. That is the Victoria Falls, Musia Tunya, the smoke that thunders. Every time I see Victoria Falls, I mean, when I saw Victoria Falls, when I went to Victoria Falls for the very first time, and when I felt those sprays, when I stood watching the smoke, the thundering smoke, seeing the rainbow, I mean, just hearing the thunder, that was an emotional moment for me. I cried as well. Like, I was in awe of God's wonders. I'm always in awe of God's wonders. And seeing Musia Tunya, Victoria Falls on the screen once again made me choke. It's like seeing something sacred. I mean, that's exactly how I described it in my blog. By the way, you can check out my blog. I wrote about my experience when I visited Victoria Falls for the first time. You can read about it. I'll put the link in the description. So yeah, it's a sacred place. The way it makes you feel just goes to show how sacred it is. Now, the last thing that made me choke was listening to Jeremy. I mean, that's why I say Jeremy won me over. I mean, I will forgive everything else. Jeremy won me over with his words. We really did save the best for last. What a tribute. What a tribute. Now, my final thoughts when it comes to the Grand Tour. This was a positively heartwarming show. It really warmed my heart. It made me emotional in a positive way. Sure, there were little criticisms here and there of the potholes, the fact that our railway, enough said. I think, yeah, that's a brutal thing I was going to say, but I think I've said enough already. I don't want to ruin this review, because this review is positive. It's about a heartwarming, well done show. The criticism was not harsh. It was not harsh. And I think it was positive criticism. That's how we must take it. And as Zimbabweans, we must take that on board. Of course, there's work that is being done, as I always say, but there's still work that still needs to be done in Zimbabwe. So I embrace the subtle criticism. I think it was well played. And yes, we heard you loud and clear. And also, I loved the nostalgic throwbacks. I mean, hearing that sound, do 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 do. It just reminded me of my childhood days. I mean, it brought memories. The A-Team. I remember those days, how I used to love watching the A-Team. So those were nostalgic moments as well. And also seeing some of the places that were shown in that episode as well brought memories. Lots and lots of memories. And also Richard's safari suit. It reminded me of my dad. He used to love wearing safari suits. That was like his favorite. So yeah, that also reminded me of my dad. Sadly, he's no longer with us, but yeah, that was a nostalgic moment for me as I watched him look really nice in that suit as well. He really did. So yeah, I really loved that. I really did. So really, in the end, the Grand Tour, this episode was not just about adventure. It was not just about fun and banter. It was not just about cars. To me, this is how I saw it. To me, it was a love letter to Zimbabwe. That's what it felt like. The reason it felt like that was that it reminded me, and hopefully all Zimbabweans, just how beautiful our country is. It reminded me of the magic, the warmth, and the beauty that our homeland possesses. So yeah, Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond, and James May, consider me won over. You won me over. You dragged me kicking and screaming and won me over. And by the way, someone needs to arrest those three for smuggling. We haven't forgotten. We haven't forgotten.